In this video, 7 developers make a video game, but without communicating. This is the Pass the Game challenge. We've had helicopters morph into superheroes and dancing penguins transform into top-down shooters. You never know what might happen on these projects. We've got a crazy lineup of devs, so without further ado, let's get started with dev number 1, me. I've always been fascinated by family trees, alliances, shows like House of the Dragon, and games like Crusader Kings. So I built a cartoony family tree creator. You match up the handsome William with the voluptuous Joanne, for example, and bam boom, they'll have a couple of children. I'm hoping the next dev plays around with these family stats and creates a game rife with political intrigue, backstabbing, strategy, incest, resource management, warfare. The sky's really the limit here, so let's pass on the project to dev number 2.
What is up, viewer? Hold up. What is up, viewer? I go by Bewky, and I make videos on YouTube sometimes, and also stream on Twitch, so go check that out. I started off by booting up the game, and wow! I wonder who worked on this last. Was it you, Noah? Was it you? I knew it was you 6 son of a gun. Anyway, I noticed the last dev was trying to go for some sort of kingdom building game, but I was really having trouble coming up with a direction to take this in, just given the drag and drop baby making mechanic.
Is polygamy an option in this game?
So I'm gonna take it in a slightly different direction while still keeping the essence of what Noah has here. Essentially, each human that Noah made will patrol around the map looking for a mate. When they find one, they'll have babies, and they'll pass their traits down to their baby, allowing said babies to evolve over time. And then, if I have time, I want to make it so the humans have to patrol around looking for food and water to survive. Psst. You for sure don't have time for that. Like for sure you don't have time for that. Like you definitely can. The first thing I did was make it so the humans patrol randomly around the map. Pretty simple, innit? Sorry. I'm sorry. Pretty simple. Next up, I added a mating system, which is a little bit more complicated. Essentially, how this works is one human will peruse around the map looking for a mate. When they find one, they'll get the other person's consent, and then they make babies. 1 to 3 babies to be exact. But how are these humans gonna evolve, you might ask? Well, that's where the freaking stats come in, dude. So I added a simple script to represent 3 stats: intelligence, strength, and hotness.
Holy moly.
But the only one that really matters at this point is hotness, because that's the one that's gonna determine if someone wants to mate with you or not. This is a very shallow world I'm creating here. Now, when 2 humans have a baby, that baby has a 50-50 chance of inheriting each of their parents' stats, and then those inherited stats have a slight chance of mutating for that child. So each child will be similar, but not exact copies of their parents. And the last thing I did was add this literal 2nd grade level artwork. This looks like you ripped it straight out of little Timmy's Cocomelon backpack. Seriously, Timmy, you're in 2nd grade. Why are you still into Cocomelon? I also wanted to add Noah's existing connection system to like represent the tree, the family tree as it grows throughout the simulation, but I didn't have time. So Noah, that's on me. I'm sorry.
Now guys, our massive game dev course, the Game Dev Rocket, is 40% off during this Black Friday season. You'll go from a complete beginner to a pro who can create platformer adventures, top-down shooters, multiplayer FPSs, and actually make money by selling his work on Steam. There's only a couple seats available. Again guys, this is the biggest discount we've ever done, so take advantage of it while it's there. The link is in the description. If however it's still too expensive, we made a much smaller course called The Launcher, priced at $37 that will teach you the fundamentals of game dev while actually creating and publishing your first game. It's the best introduction to game development out there. The link is also in the description. And now on to developer number 3.
What am I looking at? Hey, I'm Ferris, the creator of Wildfront, a town-building roguelike card game with RPG elements. I felt like what this game is supposed to be still hasn't been truly established, so my main plan was to create a functioning game loop for the next devs to work off of. But before I did that, the first thing I needed to do was refresh the art. I started with the trees, the rocks, and then I got working on the people. While I love the Blackthorn art style, I have no idea how to recreate it, so I just went ahead and made everybody a pig instead. Yeah, I'm that guy. Since I wanted to keep the spirit alive of what the last dev did, I went ahead and made a whole bunch of color variations to the pigs, and this is what the final product looked like. I wanted to create some resources, so I made a food source spawn n number of fruits every m number of seconds, and the food object would heal the pigs for a value that you set it as. I also made a shop where you could use coins to buy berry bushes and trees. You could gain coins by overfeeding the pigs and also defeating enemies. I'll get to those in a second. Then it was finally time to make the stats actually mean something, so I created a health bar and set it up to where each character would deal its strength value at the rate of its speed value. It was time to get to work on creating some enemies, which inherited the same character class the pigs had. After that, I created a simple enemy spawner script. To test the health system out, I made it to where every time you hovered over an enemy, you would deal 1 damage to them every few seconds. Now that all the parameters were set up, I made it so that when a pig was in the vicinity of an enemy, or vice versa, it would add it to its hatch set of opponents. When it left its area, it would remove it from its hatch set. Each character would continue to deal damage to all of its opponents while it was still alive. Since I didn't want the players to just drag the pigs everywhere, I set it up so that when you clicked on the pigs, you would select and deselect them, and you could move the selected pigs anywhere you pressed. So finally, I got to work on creating some upgrades in the shop. And had a fun idea. What if instead of gaining coins every time a pig got a kill or ate some food, the pig would get the coins instead and increase in size? So only when a pig died, you would get to use the coins. The pigs were now piggy banks. The last thing I did was create a simple tutorial so I could save everybody a little bit of time. After that, it was time to send it off. Also, remember to check out Wildfront on Steam. Our demo should be out by now, and thank you guys so much for having me.
Hey there, I'm Iridus. I do game dev stuff on Mooleaf Studio YouTube channel and work on Have, a game where you have to control 2 characters at once, which let's have on Steam now. As soon as I opened up the project, I was confused as to what I was looking at. There were loads of different systems everywhere, and it seems that these systems were conflicting with one another. Because of that, I decided to try combining all of these features without changing too much stuff, or even completely removing any of the previous developers' work. So to start with, I reduced the amount of mouse click smoke particles. Then I made it so that the mouse cursor gets changed to a sword only when it's on top of the enemy, and changed the default cursor to something that's easier to navigate with. Then I fixed some issues where fruits were not spawning around the trees correctly, as well as added a boundary that doesn't allow the player to drag the trees outside of the level. After that, I gave the player an option to attack enemies with a left mouse button. Since this was an easier way of killing enemies than having to use your own piggies, the player will only get half amount of gold coins when killing enemies with a mouse cursor. Then I made it so that the player is able to select and move only a single pig at a time, because it was too difficult to manage multiple selected pigs, and it was really annoying having to click on each one of them to deselect each piggy. I also added a maximum limit of owning 10 pigs at a time, mainly because it was way too easy to have a lot of oinkers running around. Later on, I saw that everything was way too static in the game, and in order to fix that, I juiced up some stuff by adding particle effects for enemy spawns, attacking, as well as some subtle spawning animations. To finalize my changes, I got an idea to add a demonic ritual portal in the center of the map, where the enemies are spawning in. Now you can sacrifice your little oinkers whenever you want to. And finally, I adjusted the tutorial, did a little bit of tweaks for user interface, and added a few sound effects here and there.
Hey, it's Ollie from MashUp Games. You may remember me from that time I was making a dungeon tower defense game called Cardallion, or from the many other Game Jam videos I've done. Let's see if I can be any help in this challenge. So as I opened up the project, I noticed that some of the mechanics seem to conflict a bit. On the one hand, you have a pig breeding simulator, and the other you have a demonic summoning ritual, and both of these didn't really leave much for gameplay loot. So I thought it best to refocus on only one of these, and being the silly Billy nincompoop that I am, I decided to turn it into a combat-based defense game. And not only that, I also turned it into 3D. I'm sorry. I started with this 3D pig model. Next, I changed the selection system so that you could select multiple pigs at once rather than selecting each one individually. Combat was quite a pain to set up again, and it made me really dislike Unity's navigation system, but after some refactoring I not only got it working, but I also structured the code so that it would be easier to make new types of pigs or enemies. I still wanted to include the 2D art that was already in the project, but these sprites were looking quite different to my 3D models. They had quite big, thick black outlines, and so to get the same effect on my 3D models, I found this outline shader on GitHub. Thank you, Internet. Before, you would lose the game when you lose all your pigs. Now, you have a barn building that's your primary base. When the demons destroy it, that's game over. I also thought this was a good way to incorporate back in getting more pigs through mating. You can't see them, but just imagine there's 2 pigs in that building. and then stop thinking about that because it's disgusting. So now, the enemies are spawned in waves around the outside of the arena, and they move towards the barn in the middle. Once all the enemies are defeated, a new day starts. And at the beginning of every new day, a new pig is added at the barn. I also added a new enemy, the tentacle, which was quite an inspiration from the green spiky thing that was beforehand. I also made an apple tree farm that will spawn an apple at the end of every round too. I wanted the player to be able to collect the apples, and then feed them to the pigs during the fights to heal them like they were previously. But unfortunately, I ran out of time at this point. I did, however, make the buildings upgradable, so maybe you upgrade the barn and more pigs are added, or upgrade the apple farm and more apples are grown that heal the pigs more. I tried to set it up so that it was easier for the next developer to add their own things, like new buildings that have different stat effects on the pigs. Maybe I would have been better off choosing the whole life sim management pig type of game, and that's probably what the devs originally intended, but that's the whole nature of this challenge really. You work on what you think would make the game better. And I guess what I thought would make the game better was changing the look of it completely and turning it into yet another wave survival game where I rewrote loads of systems and didn't fully re-implement them. I'm not getting invited back, am I?
After trying the game out, I'm 99% sure it's supposed to be a first-person shooter, so just kidding. I'll first make it isometric, just like every single strategy game under the sun, and I think this game is trying to be cozy and cute, so I'll add some explosions. Introducing the Mortar Pig. This little snotty-nosed swine will shoot coins out of its back so that it perfectly lands on its victim, where it'll blow the fuck up. I also made our piggy banks drop coins when they die because they're piggy banks. And to go with the theme, I added hammers to the enemies. I also made a big fat pig, just like your, this guy has a lot of health, which makes him a perfect tank. The best way to use your mom is to send her into the big bunch of enemies to soak up all the damage, while our friend the Mortar Pig airstrikes them from a safe distance. But then out of nowhere, the spawning system kinda just broke itself. I didn't touch it, I swear, I didn't touch it at all. But good luck to the poor soul that has to fix this. And finally, I want to confuse the shit out of the next person, so I'll make some military buildings to troll them. I really want to just see how they incorporate this into the game. I'll even add an empty folder called military upgrades. Let's see how it goes. Oh, what's that? You want to see more of me? Well, you're in luck, cause I have a YouTube channel.
Hey, I'm Kyle Banks and I'm developing a game where you play as a border collie restoring color to your human's world called Farewell North. So I mean, honestly, pretty much the same thing as this Demon Pig game. Alright, it's pretty clear this project has gone through some major revisions, but it feels like a good base. I don't technically know who my collaborators are, but I would recognize the work of my boy Shigeru Miyamoto anywhere. Knowing I'm the last dev, I definitely need to tie up loose ends and polish so I don't let him down. After bug fixing, I added particle and sound effects for Juice, music and post-processing for the day-night cycle that I found hinted at in the code, and started on some menus. I really like the tentacle model, so I leaned into that with a Pigs vs. Cthulhu motif, complete with a riveting opening cutscene. I created a Pig Cthulhu model in Blender based on the existing pig and tentacle models, and added him in-game. Whenever an upcoming wave has a Cthulhu, you'll get a warning so you can prepare yourself for a big fight, and to do so, I completed all the tower upgrades that Miyamoto left for me. I like the idea of the special units, like this cute little mortar pig, but I didn't have time to do unit upgrades, so I moved his fire button up to the UI layer since I was always accidentally clicking it. I really like the little mortar helmet though, so I just gave it to all the pigs. Finally, I added game over screen when you lose your farm, but I really didn't want to make yet another menu for the win state, so I just turned it into an infinite survival game. Every day you reject Cthulhu, the armies grow stronger until you're eventually overwhelmed. Everyone knows pigs would never submit to Cthulhu anyways, so I mean this makes complete sense lore-wise. The difficulty scaling is pretty intense, so I doubt any of you will be able to beat my high score of 8 days, and if you can't, then you have to subscribe to my channel. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Alright, that's it for me. I can't wait to see Miyamoto's reaction.
How surprised were you about the final result of this game?
It
was completely different than what I imagined it could be.
Okay, this looks interesting already. Oh, wait, holy crap, the game is so different. It's 3D now as well.
I'm not sure you probably don't know this, but my brother started out this project actually.
Wow. This is entirely different than the family tree game. I mean, what happened to my family tree? It's completely disappeared.
It's probably the project that got the biggest change out of all the past game challenges we did.
Oh wow, there's tentacles now. This is insane. This is crazy how the game has just completely changed.
Okay, bring it on. That is not what I was expecting at all.
No, my piggy! They killed one of my piggies! Destroy them! Go, my piggy fighters! Okay, I need more rockets. More rockets.
I'm actually so proud they kept all the military upgrades in here, and Mortar Pig got an upgrade. Look at that.
Someone added like a mortar pig. So there's like a special pig that had like a little helmet and like a fire button. I found I was always accidentally clicking that, so I moved the button onto the UI and made it like fire from a distance.
Artillery strike is really strong. Yes. Another one!
Yeah, I'm glad to see that it's definitely more cohesive than the state I left it in. And yeah, it seems really fun.
Cthulhu Nears. Alright, so I guess there's only a few days. This is excellent. This is very motivating to hear that I'm, getting there. However, I've got only one pig. I'm in a really bad spot here.
Cthulhu Nears. So, wait, is there like final boss or something that's coming in right now?
So if you had to continue to work on this game, what would you add? Would you have any other ideas?
One thing that it's missing right now is it doesn't have like that kind of like frantic excitement feel. Like it's very, I would say it's quite slow paced. So I'd probably lean into that, try and make things a bit crazier, go bigger.
What's the backstory here? Like, why do the pigs have beef with the gods? He's like trying to steal our lunch money or something.
Felt like it would really benefit if the game base, because you've got the farm and you've got a couple of buildings, but maybe if there was more sort of like a city management builder type of game merged in with the whole rejecting Cthulhu.
I don't have any more piggies. I'm done. I'm donezo. Goodbye. Goodbye, my beautiful born. At least I survived for a week.
I think this would make an excellent mobile game, so well done, everyone. Well done.
For the fun of it, we also opened up the projects to the Blackthornprod community, passing on the strange piggy game to our subscribers, curious to see where they might take it. Here's some of our favorite submissions.
Hey, Wiley here. First thing I wanted to do was to improve the clunky controls. I also took the opportunity to learn how to create a tile-based system. This wasn't easy at all, and it took me 1.5 days just to get it all working, but I really wanted to make sure that controlling the game feels good right from the start. Then I moved on to buying pigs. The previous devs wanted to have stats, so I gave each pig range, power, agility, and speed. There was also existing art for different pig types, and I was inspired to make a power pig, a fire pig, an electro pig, a poison pig, an ice pig, and a smart pig. By this time, I only had less than a day left, but I really needed to implement breeding. I wanted to make the pigs move next to each other and spawn a new pig with their combined stats and abilities, but I was extremely short on time and the system would take way too long. So I cut it down to just implying that the pigs can breed. In the end, it's still the same effect where a pig that breeds will gain new abilities. It's very fun to combine abilities and see how each one synergizes. Another unique mechanic that the previous devs thought of was the sacrifice pit. I reinterpreted this as having to break your piggy banks so that you can get the coins inside them. This introduced a lot of strategy to the game because you always had to weigh the trade-offs between keeping your units to stay alive and breaking them for gold to buy upgrades. So yeah, those are my changes and additions to the project. If I've piqued your interest, check out my YouTube channel, Wiley Game Dev. I know it looks pretty empty, but I'm working on some videos and we'll be posting there soon enough. Thanks to the Blackthorn bros for having me. This was a fun one.
I open up the project and it's a complete mess, so I start basically revising every single bit of code. I stick with the theme of pigs and enemy spawning for waves, and they seem to have buildings that produce stuff, so I keep those. I had a build mode so you can create the buildings, earning with the coins you earn from destroying your enemies. I added different unit types where we justify different buildings and they have different stats. I added a farmer that'll move between the buildings to produce food in the units or repair the buildings if they need. And after basically overhauling the entire thing, we have a game loop that can be played all the way to finish, even if it has nothing to do with what any of the past devs were really hoping for. It's nothing amazing, it's still got some bugs, but it's a game. And you can find me on Twitch at IAmTerrific.
Hey, I'm Zen. I make mods and games and videos about them. I heard that, hey, if one of the previous devs decided to switch the game from 2D to a 3D top-down view, let's take another step further and just make the game first person. And already it felt a lot cooler to be ordering the pigs around from the ground. Of course, the area looks pretty bad, so I ransacked the Unity asset store and got this nice terrain set up, implemented a day-night system for the waves of enemies, added some more detailing with some more free assets, making everything 3D, fixed up the use of the outline shader that a previous dev had added. I then implemented a game over/win state. I fixed up the menus, brought back the tutorial menu from the 2D version, and then I threw in a bunch of sounds that I got off freesounds.org and did some other visual effects.
Remember that you can also learn how to make video games with our course, The Game Dev Rocket, which is currently 40% off for this special Black Friday event. You'll learn how to actually make and sell your games, which in our opinion is a superb way to end the year and gain great momentum for 2024. Okay, with that said, subscribe, see you real soon, cheers.